farmland, no land near military bases, none of this. And so we But then when you get in, you've got to deliver on these promises. If you're promising to build the wall, build the wall. If you're promising to drain the swamp, drain the swamp. And I did a town hall on CNN the other night, and I was asked about this issue regarding illegal aliens and so-called birthright citizenship. And basically, the 14th Amendment was enacted to overturn the Dred Scott versus Sanford case, which was a very bad decision to ensure that African Americans were citizens of the U.S. And so that was the right thing to do. That has kind of been interpreted to say you can come into the country illegally across the border, have a kid, and all of a sudden that's an American citizen, and that creates an incentive for people to come illegally. So I don't think that's the right way to do it, and I said that I'm going to address it. But Donald Trump ran on 2016 saying the exact same thing. He said he was going to do an executive order that was going to challenge this issue of illegal alien birthright citizenship. It would get litigated, but he would do it. So he had 4 years. All he had to do was sign his name to this order, and he never did it. And then he was asked about it. He said, well, it's the lawyers told me we may not be able to. He gave kind of a mealy-mouthed excuse. The problem is he's now running in 2024 promising to do the exact same thing he promised in 16 and didn't deliver on. And it's like, okay, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me for this. So with me, anytime I tell you I'm going to do something, I am going to follow through with it. You can take it to the bank. This isn't just a show for me. I'm not just doing it for entertainment. I'm doing it because these things matter for the future of our country. We need to have victories again. We need to go up there and actually get the job done. And I will be the one to do that. And I'm motivated to do. Look, it's a weird process. You got a lot of stuff. Obviously, the media loves going after me, but I view that as a badge of honor because what better endorsement for Republican primary voters than to say I'm the one the media doesn't want? That should seal your vote to want to vote for me when they don't want me. So I'm motivated because my wife and I have a 6, a 5, a 7, a 5, and a 3. Excuse me, she just had her birthday the other month. 7, 5, and 3, and we're really concerned about the type of America they're going to have as they grow up, as they try to pursue their dreams. We want to make sure that they have an America that lives up to its best ideals. But I'm also motivated by the debt of gratitude we owe to people that have come before us and have sacrificed for us through the years. Think about the founding fathers when they went to the Philadelphia in 1787 to frame the Constitution. They came having studied the history of every republic and the history of mankind because they were trying to draw lessons of how they can apply that here in the United States. And as they studied that, they realized there was only one thing that all these republics throughout history had in common, and it was this: every one of them had failed. And so they understood it fell to the United States of America to determine, can people really govern themselves? Can you have a country based on the idea that our rights are endowed by God, not by the government, that we live under a rule of law, not the whim of individual rulers? Or was mankind forever destined to live under various forms of tyranny? And they fully expected that this country and the people here would decide that. They also understood that just having the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution in place didn't ultimately answer that question. That's just the ticket to the dance. When Benjamin Franklin walked out of the convention, he was asked, "Did you give us a republic or a monarchy?" He said, "A republic if you can keep it." They understood freedom is fragile. They understood freedom needs to be fought for. And I'm reminded of this every time I fly into Washington, D.C. There's a particular route when you go into Reagan Airport that takes you flush parallel to the National Mall. So if you look out the left side of the plane, you see the Lincoln Memorial, the reflecting pool, the Washington Monument, the other monuments, the beautiful U.S. Capitol building perched on top of the hill. And you feel a sense of pride because those symbolize the ideals and principles that make our country unique. But after having done that a few times, I soon realized the best monuments to this country are not found looking out the left side of that plane on our National Mall. Because if you look out the other side of the plane, you look over the Potomac River, You see a series of small, nondescript monuments orderly arranged over the rolling hills of a place called Arlington National Cemetery. And it occurs to me then, and as the only veteran running for president, I certainly believe now, you can have the best Constitution in the world. You can have the best Declaration of Independence in the world. These things do not run on autopilot. They require every generation of Americans to step up and fight for freedom. And sometimes put on a uniform, risk your life, and even give the last full measure of devotion for service to this country. Now, we're not called upon to make sacrifices of that nature here in this political season. But what we are called upon to do is to do justice to the sacrifices of the people who lay in places like Arlington. What we are called upon to do is to preserve what George Washington called the sacred fire of liberty. This is a fire that burned in Independence Hall in 1776 when 56 men pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to establish a new nation conceived in liberty. It's a fire that burned at a cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, when our nation's first Republican president pledged this nation to a new birth of freedom. It's a fire that burned on the beaches of Normandy when a merry band of brothers stormed the shores, defeated the Nazis, and preserved liberty throughout the world. It's a fire that burned at the foot of the Berlin Wall in 1987 when a resolute Republican president stood in front of that wall and said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall," leading to the dissolution of the Soviet Union. This is our responsibility to carry this torch and to preserve this sacred fire of liberty. It's not a responsibility I shy away from. It's a responsibility I welcome. If not now, when? And if not us, who? So I will be somebody who will get the job done for you. As the nominee of this party, I will sweep us to victory, just like we did in Florida in record fashion. As a leader, I'll always conduct myself in a way that you can be proud of. And as the next president of the United States, you can take this to the bank. I will not let you down. Thank you all. God bless. Let's take some questions. All right. Thank you. Yes. So it's interesting. So I did a CNN, the town hall moderator for my CNN thing was Caitlin Collins, who Nikki messed up. So when I started the event, I actually had a Caitlin Clark jersey or was a shirt with her name on it. And I handed it to Caitlin Collins and I said, you know, with all due respect to Miss Collins, if I need a buzzer beater made, I'm going with Clark over Collins. Look, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, well, first, anytime you see something like that, your hearts go out to the families. I mean, you know, to have a sixth grader shot by some nut who's in school, you know, it's an absolute travesty, and it should not be happening. And as the father of young kids, schools need to be safe. We've worked a lot on this in Florida, and we've had great results. But it's something that ever since the Columbine. I remember that. I mean, I was in I think I was in college and this Columbine, and it was almost like, you know, that became something where people that have a screw loose, they would target schools. So that's part of the reason we've done a lot on school security, because schools were viewed as a soft target by some of these people. And I think that's important. But the mental health aspect is significant because when you see these people, they have very similar profiles. This was somebody who was really hopped up on this gender ideology, and you saw it in the profile. You know, the media doesn't want to talk a lot about that because it doesn't fit their narrative. But the reality is, we've now seen that in a number of different places. You've seen other folks have different types of mental issues where they were, you know, clearly talking about doing things that are very, very bad. And so, a couple things. Yes, mental health, but particularly in the schools, because this was a 17-year-old student. Um, and it ranges from people that may be a danger to society, which obviously for protection of everybody else, there needs to be an intervention there. But it also is just kind of run of the mill students that go through issues in life to be able to have resources there that are good and solid. And unfortunately, so my wife has gotten involved in helping the schools in Florida in a good way. Unfortunately, what you find through all this is like, I mean, the left will use some of this mental health stuff to advance the woke agenda. That's a dead end. Okay, when you're talking about people that need help, you want that to be on the up and up. You don't want to use that as a leverage to try to advance the agenda. So I think that's important. But I do agree on the institutionalization. Not to say that this is going to be like everybody, but like there used to be more people in institutional settings, way more as a percentage, and we've gone in a total other direction. So when I look at places like the streets of San Francisco and I see all these people doing this, it's like, that's not a housing problem. That's ultimately a mental health problem that's led them there. So I think it runs the gamut. And veterans, of course, 22 suicides a day. Like when I was in Iraq, so that was 2007. So 9/11, Afghanistan, Iraq, all that stuff had been going on. I'd be with Marines, and I was, attached to Navy SEALs, so the special operators, U.S. Soldiers, so many of them had been on multiple deployments since 9/11. I mean, 4 or 5 deployments just since 9/11, like a 6-year period. That's not normal. And so that's a lot of burden on a very small. Of course, you're going to have invisible wounds of war. Of course, you're going to have things like post-traumatic stress. So and what happens with the VA was the VA and a lot of people focus on pharmaceutical interventions for these folks. That is look, I'm not saying it can never work for people, but I just seen enough where that doesn't work for a lot of people. And so you've got to have a different approach. So for example, in Florida, we have a group that trains service dogs to be paired with veterans with post-traumatic stress. And you know what? They recognize the symptoms, they help alleviate, and the suicide rate plummets when you have situations like that. So that's something that we've got to do. But we do need, I think, more institutional settings, especially from people that are posing a threat to society, because they'll be better off in the institutional setting as well. But then it also is the protection of the public. When we had in Florida, this was before I was governor, I was running at the time in 2018, the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting, and terrible shooting. Law enforcement did not respond properly. In Dallas County, seems like the response was good. That was not the case with that. So that was an issue. But when the shooting happened and the news broke, people in that community, without knowing any identity published of who it was, they all thought it was the guy that it actually was, because he had been somebody that had been viewed as likely to do something like this. People didn't want to intervene. So we have things like behavioral threat assessment tools that schools can work with local law enforcement on to see, because these are rare, but they're serious. And so you got to do it. And the security is great, and we need to do that. But man, if you have somebody that has these warning signs from a mental health perspective, have an intervention, or even from a criminal perspective, because the guy from Parkland, he should have been prosecuted for different crimes throughout this whole thing. So, but schools, I think, need to be safe. We've put more resources in Florida than just about anyone, I think. And it's something that I'm happy to do, because as a dad, I understand how important it is to parents.
Speaking of mental health and interventions, I fully expect Laura Loomer to show up to troll one of these events today. She won't get in, but she'll do it to make a viral video and act like DeSantis is afraid of her. But he would roast her in an honest dialogue. He would roast her. See, what Laura does is she makes it so she knows she's going to get kicked out. She just makes it a viral video. And then it'll get like 1 million views because people are idiots. Not these people. Not these people. Not Iowans, man. These are the smart people right here. These are the people that are going to decide this election. Not all these bozos on Twitter.
Well, I'm not exactly sure how it breaks down in terms of these other countries. I just haven't looked at that. But I will say this. I don't have the answer per se, but I do think, the role of pharmaceutical interventions. I think that there's culture. I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. But back in like the 40s and 50s, kids used to go to school and bring a rifle. I mean, yeah, like they would do that. And so, it's like you didn't have this happening then. When literally they're bringing this to school.
You didn't have ADD back then either.
Then, I think some of it now with social media and mass media,
yeah,
people know if they commit one of these horrible things, they're going to be famous. They're going to be put on TV. They can put a manifesto on social media and all this stuff. And so it's created, I think, a really nasty set of incentives for people that want to kind of go out in a blaze of glory that you wouldn't probably have had, 50, 60 years ago. So there is some underlying issues here. I also just wonder, we have a fatherlessness crisis in this country. How is that playing in to some of these troubled youth
He's
in
so
terms
right
of, do
on
they have the
everything,
right
dude.
mentorship there? We have a fatherhood initiative in Florida to promote fatherhood, get fathers involved. But if you can't, because there's kids that have their dads in prison. We want to promote mentorship, because sometimes all the difference can be someone takes an interest in a young kid's life, and that could change everything for them. So we've been working hard to do it. But I appreciate your work in this area. Clearly, you go back 20 years to now, the public, I think, perception and interest in the importance of mental health has continued to go up. We hear it all across Iowa and other states. So this is an important issue that the country needs to address. It's not all going to be addressed at the federal government level. Obviously, it's a local, state, and the federal government will have a role. But this issue is not going away. So thank you. Yes.
Every time there's a shooting, we should know what medicines they're taking, what pharmaceutical,
Sure.
and what are the side effects. Do you notice back then when kids would carry rifles to school, we didn't have things like ADD either. Like, where did that come from? Suddenly everybody's got ADD.
Well, just a point of clarification, Disney is the Goliath of the state of Florida. So. Well, look, I mean, what I would say a couple things. I mean, one is how as a leader, like what lessons do you draw from something like King Saul? And I think that King
Yeah, you got
Saul
asked
shows
about King
the
Saul.
danger of hubris, the danger of thinking
King Saul is Donald Trump.
more than God, pride, all that stuff. So I don't consider myself a ruler over the people. I'm a servant of the people. God's
That's
the
King
ruler,
David
not me.
right there.
So you have a role that you play. It's important, but you got to have that humility, and you got to be focused on what the people want. And look, so what Trump. So when I was running for reelection, and I had never really had any issues at all with him. I always support him in both his elections. He just started attacking me leading into my election, and it was because I was doing well. It wasn't because I had done anything to him. It just, he saw that, and he saw, hey man, everyone's talking about the governor. So he started doing that. I won this huge reelection record victory. And then he kept attacking. And that's what it is. And so the problem is, you don't want to be using your energy to go after someone in the party who's doing everything the voters want us to do. And that goes for me with anyone else. I want Governor Reynolds to do well. He attacks her, not because she's not doing a good job, but because she hasn't kissed the ring. That's the only reason he attacks her. And so we just have to make a decision as Republicans, is like, okay, is it about one person, or is it about all of us and these principles and these values and these ideas that we think are important? Because if it's just about one person, then ultimately the underlying things we're fighting for are gonna diminish in significance, and it's all gonna be about whatever he said. So attacking me, I can handle it. I don't mind. I mean, like, people say, oh man, the media attacks, all this stuff. Look, the sacrifices that people have made so that we could be in this position, dwarf anything I have to deal with people. What, you're gonna say something mean about me? So what? I mean, I don't care. It doesn't bother me at all. That's just part of the process. But I do think it shows, if that's where the energy is, rather than fighting the folks who are causing the problems in this country, then it's more about you rather than about the greater good. And that's just not how I roll.
It's about you.
I am not going to get jealous by other
not them, it's
Republicans
you.
doing well. I wish all Republicans did as well as Iowa and Florida. The country would be better off if they all did as well as Iowa and
other
Florida.
people to do well. You really do. You're not sitting there all jealous and angry like an angry old King Saul. I'm glad somebody asked about Saul. I should have written a book about that. There's a lot of things I should have written a book about. But I have ADD, you see. Let me. You want to know the cause of ADD, by the way? There it is. ADD surfaced and ramped up right around the time Z's proliferated.
Well, what's your name? Okay. So the way you restore the Constitution, I mean, I think there's a lot of things.
Article 5.
Our founders created 3 branches of government.
Article 5.
Legislative,
let's go.
Judicial, and executive. They did not create a 4th branch of government, an administrative state. And what we have is this 4th branch that's developed. It imposes its will on us without our consent. It's weaponized against us, depending on where you sit in society. And the elections almost don't matter to these people. When Trump got elected, they went to war against him and tried to drive him out of office. That is not the way the founding fathers intended, and that's not sustainable for a free society. So we're going to restore the government to its rightful owners, which is we the people. But that means you got to go in, use power under Article 2 to reduce the size and the scope of the bureaucracy, to hold bureaucrats accountable, to lay off bureaucrats, fire bureaucrats. And it's going to take a much different posture than what we've seen with previous presidents. You know, Donald Trump, he kept a lot of Obama holdovers in things like the National Security Council. I can tell you this, every Biden holdover on day one when I'm president is gone.
There you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, this will be the last question.
But we also need to look, because I think, like, okay, Washington doesn't work for us; it works for itself. That's why 5 of the 8 wealthiest counties in our country are suburbs of Washington, D.C. That didn't happen by accident. But so why don't you have more people like Chip and Tom Massie that are really standing on principle, fighting all this stuff? And it's just because the incentives are to produce the results that we've been getting. All the behaviors incentivized to benefit the swamp at the expense of the American people. So yes, I'll go in there. I'll clean house. These guys will help me. But I think you need some structural reforms long term. You need term limits for members of Congress. We're going to work for that.
There we go. Here we go. Article 5.
You need a balanced budget requirement for the U.S. Constitution, just like Florida has to do it. You should do it here. We also need to give the president what's called the line item veto. So as governor, when they put a budget on my desk, I can line out and veto individual pork projects. So with the president can't do that. So think about it. They'll put a big spending bill on the president's desk. You can either fund everything or fund nothing. So that's why your money goes to do things like promote transgenderism in Bangladesh, because you can't do. So if you had the president line and veto, you could hack out so much stuff. Veto all funding for the United Nations. You can do it. You know, you name it. You have to do it through Article 5 with the state. So you go state by state. Florida's already certified. Other states have certified these things.
There we go.
I'll use the bully pulpit to go. Hopefully we'll have more red legislatures. But I think even the blue legislatures would do term limits. So we're going to do that. We know it's part of a process. No one's tried to actually do it with presidential leadership. So I'm going to do it. Another thing, and I know Chip's been involved in this, is you look at like what these members of Congress are doing with like trading stocks and stuff. And it's like, Pelosi should be running a hedge fund with how much, I mean, like unbelievable returns. It's like, so he has legislation I support. Because when I first got elected, I sold my stocks. I never made, I've not since I've been elected office made a trade, because I don't want people to be saying, oh, you're doing this for this. And so you just sacrifice that. And so, but he has thing to say. Members of Congress should not be doing these individual stock trades. You could put it in like a blind trust or whatever, or 401k. But to do that, I think it's created huge amounts of distrust. And then the other thing that I was a big supporter of and would love to see is a proposed 28th Amendment to the Constitution that says very simply, Congress shall make no law respecting the citizens of the United States that does not also apply to members of Congress themselves.
Ladies and gentlemen, this will be the last question.
Oh yeah, here it is, guys. Mark Levin. Mark Levin just has his head too far up Trump's ass to see that this is the guy we've been waiting for. Jeez. Trump puts a spell on these guys, especially the ones on Fox News, and especially the ones over 65.
Therefore, I ask you, would you support decriminalizing cannabis, allowing citizens of the United States
So we have medical marijuana in Florida as part of our Constitution. Do you have it in Iowa or no?
Hey.
No. You know, it's I think the places that have done it for recreational use, like Colorado, I don't think it's worked well. I think it's caused problems in the cities.
Thinks up the
I
place.
think it's created a black market. And so I think that. So we'll respect the decisions that the states make on that. But I do think some of these places like California and Colorado, I don't know what they did with it, but I mean, it has definitely caused a negative impact on their workforce. But on medical freedom, so we did this during COVID, where, you know, we banned all the COVID shot mandates. You should not have to choose between a job you need and a shot you don't want. And so we protected everybody on that. We made sure that in Florida, we enacted protections. You have a civil right to breathe air. So they cannot force you to wear a mask against your will. You can choose, but they cannot make you do that. And I think that's important. We also banned any of the COVID shot requirements for school children because they wanted to mandate it then. There's no evidence that the school's kids need to be taking the COVID shots. But I think we need going forward to bring a reckoning to the federal government and everybody that was involved in this disastrous COVID response, from Fauci to CDC to NIH, FDA. It's been a total disaster with how that's gone. In fact, if you think about it, the FDA, these bureaucrats, when they work and approve these things, their next job is almost always with big pharma. And so why did they approve COVID jabs for 6-month-old babies? There was no evidence that that was beneficial for 6-month-old babies. Forget about anything that could potentially negative happen. And yet they hotline that through. Why would they have done that? Well, it's because these companies are going to made money off that. Now, very few parents are doing it for their young kids because I think they've looked at the data and they've realized that that's not appropriate. Our Surgeon General in Florida was the first one to say that the most recent approval for whatever the most recent booster is, he's done the analysis. It says, you know, there was not an adequate basis to approve it to begin with. And now there's other questions regarding potential safety. So he's called for that authorization actually be revoked and for it to be pulled off the market. But here's the thing. You don't know whether they're doing it on the up and up because the incentives are really, really bad with what. So we're going to stop the revolving door between FDA and big pharma. We're going to clean out all the politics out of the CDC and the NIH, and we're going to protect you so that this never happens to our country ever again. One more. Well, God bless you, sir. Thank you so much. So listen, we're excited about January 15th. Like, this is your opportunity. You know, the media, they don't think you even matter. They don't think you should even vote. They think they can take a poll. They think they can take a poll and that somehow why even bother with it? I think Iowans know better. I think Iowans take pride in this process. And I think Iowans know that ultimately, you know, their voice is more important than any pundit, any juice poll, any of this nonsense. And so we are fortunate to have built the best organization that anyone's been able to build for an Iowa caucus. We've gone to all 99 counties. We've answered questions. We've shaken hands. We've done it. We've articulated a great vision for this country. And that is what does it when you're talking about these Iowa caucuses. So I'm asking for your support. I'm asking you to round up more folks and bring them there on caucus night. I tell you, if everyone here who's committed to caucus with us brings 2 extra people, you are going to see an earthquake on January 15th. So thank you for your support. God bless you for your support. And I can tell you this, you can talk to folks in Florida that voted for me in the primary when I ran in 18, even that didn't vote for me. They will say, man, this guy delivered far beyond anything I ever imagined. That's what we'll do for you as president. Thank you.
Yes, he did. Oh, dang it. Now I'm going to get... Now I'm going to get a little thing from YouTube because of that one stinking cord. I'm going to get a message from YouTube that says this cannot be monetized. All right. Maybe I'll go to Iowa. I got some jobs this week, but the victory party is going to be great. He's going to win. And let me tell you, I've just noticed the way this election has gone, the way this primary has gone, the main focus has been to distract, to destroy and distract DeSantis. And I think that there's been a real coordinated push for this that I didn't see. And because I'm a little bit naive sometimes, and I thought, oh, we got all these people that they just want the same things that we want. And there you go. I mean, there's 2 of the top culprits. Laura and Vivek, they're buddies. All right. This was in front of the courthouse when they were all screaming F Ron DeSantis, but not asking Vivek to drop out. And I went down there to confront him about his big pharma ties. And you can see this coordination here. She wasn't yelling at him to drop out and endorse Trump. No, they're working together. They're all on the same page. They could not. You watch Ron DeSantis. You watch him handle those questions. You watch how he interacts, the platform he's got. He's all for Article 5, which is what we need to restore our Constitution. We need to amend the Constitution. I'm so glad he's talking about that. I'm so glad he's talking about the pharmaceuticals with the mental health stuff. What are these kids that are shooting up schools? What are they taking? What medications are they on? Because that's like, what's the common thread? They're all on medications. You can tell by looking at them they're on medication. I mean, what are they on? What did they abruptly stop? What did they start? Were they switching medications? What are the side effects? That never gets asked. And the thing with that is it doesn't have to be a thing where you talk about, they did it because they were trans or whatever. Just show the medications they were on. But that never gets asked. There needs to be congressional hearings on these medications. But let's go down here. All right. On January 6th, let's all remember what Trump said on January 6th.
The demonstrators who infiltrated the Capitol have defiled the seat of American democracy. The demonstrators who infiltrated the Capitol have defiled the seat of American democracy. The demonstrators who infiltrated the Capitol.
He can say it. He can say it, but nobody else can. All right. If you say it, then it's like, you're throwing the J6ers under the bus. He can throw the J6ers under the bus all he wants. That's not a problem. But did you see him last night? What is he talking about here? Gee, this should go right up next to John F. Kennedy's "Ask not what your country can do for you" speech.
That didn't work. They had an almost $1 billion cost overrun on the magnetic elevators. Think of it, magnets. Now, all I know about magnets is this. Give me a glass of water. Let me drop it on the magnets. That's the end of the magnets. Why didn't they use John Deere? Why didn't they bring in the John Deere people? Do you like John Deere? I like John Deere. It didn't work. They had an almost $1 billion cost overrun on the magnetic elevators. Think of it, magnets. Now, all I know about magnets is this. Give me a glass of water. Let me drop it on the magnets. That's the end of the magnets. Why didn't they use John Deere? Why didn't they bring in the John Deere people? Do you like John Deere? I like John Deere. It didn't work. They had an almost $1 billion cost overrun.
Does dropping water on
elevators.
magnets?
Think of it, magnets. Now, all I know about magnets is
What
this.
does that
Give me a
stop?
glass of water. Let me drop it on the magnets. That's the end of the magnets.
When you
Why
drop a
didn't they
glass of
use
water on
John
magnets,
Deere?
does that do something to the magnet? What's he talking about? Like what's he talking about? And he's rambling. He's not making any sense. I mean, we're getting to a point of elder abuse here. And you know, the people that are left, this is the Trump rally, okay? And these things, they're not as big as they used to be, okay? And look. I mean, Trump's always going to have his base. He's always going to have people that will pledge their life to him, and they're always going to be trying to make themselves loud and drown other people out. And they're the people that the people that you, when you went to these Trump rallies, you kind of rolled your eyes at. All right. And that's what's left. All right. Now, is everybody in this room from Iowa? Well, I know Mike Lindell's not from Iowa, and he was there. People follow Trump all over the place. But, you know, you look at this, and it's just not what it once was. Okay. It's not this is not the Trump that we had before.
I had the one, and then I had the other. Supreme Court is taking the case from Colorado, and so they'll make a decision. And you know what I do find, and you know, maybe say it, maybe don't, but I say it. A Democrat judge appointed by, let's say, Obama, they're down and they say, we're appointed, that's the end. When you are a Republican judge and you're appointed by, let's say, Trump, they go out of their way to hurt you so that they can show that they have been fair, honorable people. It's an amazing difference. I've never seen anything like it. You appoint.
Look, you appointed them, Trump. You appointed those guys. All right. And now what? You're mad because you think that they might rule to not take up the Colorado thing because it's the fair thing to do? He's scared to death. Okay. I will tell you this. Like he's scared to death that that the Supreme Court is not going to rule in his favor. And what he's trying to say here is that, oh, I mean, number one, he looks horrible. I mean, he's got sweat in his face. He labored breathing. He slurs his words. He doesn't. And I mean, if this was Biden, they would all be all over him saying, oh, look, it's elder abuse. But he's afraid here. All right. He's afraid because he thinks that what he's saying is that basically when it comes to Supreme Court decisions, you have the ones that the people on the left appoint are pretty much always do what the left's bidding is, and media gives them cover. But when you have judges like Clarence Thomas and they rule for things that make people on the right happy, that the media doesn't give them cover. Okay.
Some of these radical left Democrats, and they've right from the beginning, you say we're dead. And the Republican judges want to go out of their way to be fair and unbiased, and even
Oh, no, be fair and unbiased? Oh, gee. What a thought. I don't think the Supreme Court's going to rule in his favor. I don't think it's a slam dunk. I think you'll probably get some kind of split decision from the Supreme Court. That's what I think. I think it's going to be, they're going to try to craft something that that doesn't make everybody, I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle, because they don't want to be seen as the ones that decided an election. Okay. They just don't. They didn't step in the 2020 stuff, and rightfully so. But I think he knows that there could be a decision that doesn't totally favor him. I mean, the states do have authority to decide who goes on their ballots. All right. Yeah. He'll have a meltdown about all of a sudden any of these Supreme Court justices that he'll call them disloyal. I mean, he's already kind of given them a threat here in a
to
way.
a point where they hurt you. And I guess it's a different wiring system or something. But all I want is fair. I fought really hard to get 3 very, very good people, and they're great people, very smart people. And I just hope that they're going to be fair, because, you know, the other side plays the ref, like Bobby Knight, the great Bobby Knight.
What? Then he starts trailing off, talking about something else. Oh, the great Bobby Knight. Do you remember back in 1973? This was a great day. You know, I mean, I don't want to listen to this old this dude tell stories, back in the day stories. Oh, the great Bobby Knight. He was a very loyal man, unlike Fat Tony. Yes, I hired Fat Tony for many of my construction projects back in the 80s. Fat Tony was very good. I didn't like him very much, just like I liked Jeffrey Epstein. Very smart, flew in his plane many times, didn't like him. He was a great businessman. And he's, the magnet story. Okay, like what's he talking about there? But let me just, okay, what he's talking. All right, so what he's talking about there is basically he's whining that judges on the left do pretty much what the left wants, but judges on the right, you can expect them to possibly do something fair, because then the media, because of media pressure. Okay, and he's kind of right about that. He looks horrible. I mean, he looks absolutely horrible. But he's kind of right about that. But then he's like, I appointed these guys. We just hope they do the right thing. And oh boy, they just hope they do the right thing. Oh yeah, here's something that Ron DeSantis said about stolen elections and things like that back a few months ago.
You know, part of doing well is preempting things before they happen. You know, we can sit there and wait for things to go south, but if you can get ahead, it does make a difference. You know, part of doing well.
All right, see, he's talking about like get out ahead. You know, you gotta get out ahead, and you can't complain about a stolen election after the fact. Like, it's just not going to work. All right, you can't go and try to undo something that's already done. Okay, now we're going to take back our country. We're going to take back our country, guys. You ready to take back our country? Oh, yay.
You will declare that we are going to take back our country. We are
We're
going
going
to
to take
defeat
back our country,
crooked
guys.
Joe Biden. You will declare that we are going to take back our country. We are going to defeat.
You ready to
crooked
take back our country? Geez, I wish I could just hit back on Twitter and it would go back to where I was instead of taking me back to the top. All right, so there's your MAGA hero Vivek. What Trump did last week was wrong. Downright abhorrent, plain and simple. I've said it before, and I've said it in my piece, because that was what was popular thing to say at the time. But now Vivek is Happy Entrapment Day, everybody. Oh yes, because that's what you want me to say. Oh yay. You know, it's a lot of these people is they just say what they want you to. They just say what they want you to hear. Tim Pool hated Trump when it was not popular to like Trump. I was calling out DeSantis when it was DeSantis mania in 2021. Now it's unpopular to like DeSantis among the pop crew, okay, the online crew. So now all these guys have gravitated towards, now we don't like DeSantis either, but we love Trump now. Even a couple years ago, when there was more things to love about Trump, they didn't love him then. Do you see what I mean? Hey, babe. They go and they're silly putty. They're whatever you want them to be, because they know they'll get hits. They know they'll get views. They know they'll get shared.
They're saying, oh, Trump owns the Supreme. He owns it. He owns it. If they make a decision for him, it will be terrible. It'll ruin their reputations. He owns the Supreme Court. He put on 3 judges. He owns the Supreme Court. If they rule in his favor, it will be horrible for them. And we'll protest at their houses, and we'll do all of the things that you say. And that puts pressure on people to do the wrong thing. What they're doing is no different than Bobby and I. They're playing the ref. I watched that. I said, man, they're really good. They're really good at it. And I just hope we get fair treatment, because if we don't, our country's in big, big trouble. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? I think so. Because they'll cover that completely differently.
No,
They'll cover that in a much different manner. But I'm just saying it's a very unfair situation that takes place. So,
do you guys know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying? Okay, number one, half the people at Stream Yes don't have any clue who Bobby Knight was. Okay, Bobby Knight was the head coach of the Indiana Hoosiers from 1971 to 2000. Trump does these stories. Oh, gee, you remember? I remember watching Roberto Clemente. I remember I remember watching Babe Ruth. Oh boy, the Babe was great. He really loved me. He loved me very much. Mickey Mantle as well. But everybody cheers. They don't know who Bob Knight is. Maybe the older ones do, which is pretty much all of them. But so they're like, yeah, we know what you're saying. It sounds to me like he's saying that if the Supreme Court rules against him, that there should be a riot. I mean, what, are you going to storm the Supreme Court building now? That's what it sounds like. Did he meet Abraham Lincoln too? He starts telling stories of like, oh, back in the day of these guys who are like, you know what I'm talking about? Because the audience is listening. This is lower energy than Jeb Bush. I mean, his face looks like he's melting. He looks like a changeling on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, like in the last days of the changelings when they were melting and they were withering and their empire was falling. And, you know, he thinks he's King Saul. I mean, the last days of King Saul are not pretty. All right. And his face is melting here. All right. And it sounds like he's saying that, oh, well, hey, look, the left, if the Supreme Court ruled against them, oh, boy, they would be protesting in front of their houses. So, look, let me just tell you something, all right? I mean this out of the goodness of my heart. You guys saw what happened on January 6th. Don't get involved in any kind of Trump riot or protest or don't go anywhere near it. Don't even go there to cover it, okay? The people on the left will cover it just fine. Don't go there to be involved with it in any way. Unless you want to end up like the J6ers, you know? We're going to take back our country, guys. We're going to take back our country. Here we go. Here is the infamous video of Trump, of Trump talking about magnets. All right.
So you put a magnet on a pole in front of a car, you know, like one of those huge Acme suckers, and then boom, the thing moves forever. It just won't work in the rain because you know what fucking water does to a magnet? What do you think Hawkins was working on with those midgets on Epstein Island? So you put a magnet on a pole in front of a car, you know, like one of those.
Truck, you got the truck, you got the magnet. So see, so what he wants to do here is build a thing with a swing arm that is a magnet in front of the truck. You put a magnet on the truck and it goes. I mean, to me, this is a pretty good idea. Then you don't have to worry. That's how we phase out gas-powered cars, right? There you go. Unless it gets wet, though, because if you pour water on magnets, then it makes them not work, according to Trump. All right, so that's from geez, who shared that? That's pretty good. That was from Prison Mitch, Midnight Mitch. Midnight Mitch, love him, love Mitch. Mitch is a good guy. He's a good guy. I love him. I don't like him very much. Didn't like him. He's a great guy. I kicked him out of my house. He's a great businessman. I flew on his plane. Midnight Mitch, yes. Don't like him. Bad guy. I love him though. You know, this is what bothers me a lot about January 6th. This is what I think of when I think of January 6th. I think of all the money that they raised. $250 million. Mitch loves me. I didn't say that. yeah, it's good. $250 million they raised off of this BS. All right. He knew the election wasn't stolen. And you play Steve Bannon talking about it. I go, oh, why don't I play that? All right, $250 million. They raised $100 million off of Stop the Steal in the first week, and they funneled it into Trump's PACs. If you're wondering, I have a theory about this because you see all these accounts, big accounts that went gung-ho, hating DeSantis, hating us, really, his supporters. That's who they try to take their rage out on. They just all of a sudden like these corporate looking accounts, like the Benny Johnsons, and their accounts look very corporatized. You know, they're like, it's like there's something more going on here. They're really they push a narrative and they move you in this way, then they kind of move you in that way. Then it's like Epstein is this big conspiracy for all that, but you can't mention Trump. Whatever, you know, you go to Mario Nawfal's spaces and they're blathering about Epstein and Bill Clinton, but if you mention Trump, they shut you up. Like there's something bigger behind all this. They're very corporatized. There's money going on in this. My theory is, there's $250 million that Trump raised that nobody really knows where it went. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, this money went somewhere. I'll tell you that. Some of it went to the Stop the Steal organizer. Some of it went to Melania's hairdresser. But Trump just pushed this, and the money just came in. I mean, $250 million he brought in on this. And it didn't go to it did not go to Stop the Steal. All right. It went to other stuff. All right. This is kind of like what this is like BLM level stuff. Like this is what BLM did. I mean, or I said, you know what? People, I think Laura looks good in that hat. I told her that. I was like, Laura, you know, you're doing your little shtick there or whatever. You're going to go try to disrupt the DeSantis event, knock yourself out, make a viral video, make all your supporters happy, raise money. I think she looks good in that hat. I think she does. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, Stop the Steal is the next indictment to stop. That's what I think. I mean, this to me is the biggest thing. I mean, January 6th is big, and a lot of people are sitting in jail, and I'm mostly it's because he lied about it. That's what makes me the most mad. If they were sitting in jail and an election was legitimately stolen, but by the way, that's why a lot of these guys, they stay loyal to Trump even from jail, because if they decided to not be loyal to Trump, number one, people would stop calling them. People would stop sending them money or anything. People would stop helping them. They would lose that. And number two, they're isolated, so they don't know the developments that have happened. It's not like they're being told that, oh yeah, by the way, it's kind of been revealed that Trump knew he lost, but led you to believe it anyway. So you got to give them that benefit of the doubt. And then also they've got all these grifters like Julie Kelly and Alex Jones that are invested in the narrative that the election was stolen. So they kind of, when they call them from prison and all, they have to play that narrative that, oh yeah, we still back Trump. Because if they go, you know what, I think that I'm sitting in jail for a lie, and they'd have to admit to themselves that they're sitting in jail for a lie, which would be a very hard thing to do. It's probably easier to serve a jail sentence when you think you're doing it for a noble cause. But if you realize that you're sitting in jail for a lie and admit that to yourself, those years would get a lot harder to serve, you know? But, Yeah, insurrection is an uprising against the government. It doesn't mean that you tried to overthrow the government. That's what I always thought. I always thought that it meant that they tried to overthrow the government. No, an insurrection can be the Black Lives Matter riots. It can be any of those things, which Trump called an insurrection a bunch of times. The Republicans were calling that if Democrats rioted that same way, it would be an insurrection and they would stomp it out. So it's like, an insurrection can be any of these things. The question is, did Trump told him to go to the Capitol, dude. But anyway, so here's this here. All right. This is what bothers me more than anything. President Trump and his diehard allies raised $250 million off their claims the 2020 election was stolen, but most of the funds went toward his newly created Save America PAC rather than to pay for various challenges to Joe Biden's victory. The House committee probed last week. Is that the is that okay? Trump tried to have DeSantis removed from the ballot. All right, and that was paid for by one of his PACs. That was paid for by one of his PACs. Let me see if it was a Save America PAC. Stop the Steal money might have been used for a lawsuit to try to get DeSantis kicked off the ballot. That would be interesting. Let me just look this up real quick. Stick with me. Remove from. You know what? I could just spread bullshit all day like Dom Lucre. And okay. MAGA Inc. No, MAGA Inc. tried to get DeSantis kicked off the ballot. He actually tried to have DeSantis removed as governor for running a quote shadow campaign for president when he was doing his book tour. And DeSantis brought that up. He was like, yeah, if Trump had got me kicked off the ballot, everybody would be cheering. but you know, when Trump gets kicked off the ballot, then we all everybody's got to run and act like he's a victim and defend him and everything. I don't have any interest in defending him on anything anymore whatsoever, the way he's behaved over this last year. But, you know, he sent out this email to everybody. The Democrats will try to steal this election. Give us money now. So people gave all this money. Fight back. But did that money that they sent him go to fight back against his claims? Most of the money, instead, went to entities that directly benefited Trump's family and friends rather than the election-related litigation. Among the outlays Wick cited from Save America PAC were $1 million each to a pair of pro-Trump think tanks, the Conservative Partnership Institute. It's like the Human Fund. I mean, this was basically the Human Fund, and the America First Policy Institute. Sounds very legit. As well as more than $200,000 to the Trump Hotel collection and $5 million to event strategies, the firm that helped put on the January 6th Stop the Steal rally that participated in the Capitol riot. Smaller dollar donors use scarce disposable income to support candidates and causes of their choosing to make their voices heard. Those donors deserve the truth about what those funds are used for. So it's like there should be something he has to pay for this. I mean, he like, where did this? And you see all these people attacking. All of a sudden, they shift from loving DeSantis to ignoring him, attacking him, and backing Trump all day. And you wonder where this $250 million went. Did any of it make it into Benny Johnson's pocket? I'm just floating out theories here. It went to Trump's family and friends. Alex Bruzewicz, Tim Pool, Laura Loomer. I mean, are they doing all this for free? Are they doing? I mean, the Dilly meme team, of course, I think they'll just do stuff for Trump hats, because what's funny is, like, the funniest thing about the expose from the New York Times and the Dilly meme team was basically that they were just doing what they were doing for signed Trump hats. I think they wanted people to think they might be getting a cut of that money, but I don't think they were getting any of it. Then we'll do it for Trump ads. Just let us be in your presence, sir. Give a piece of your T-shirt so I can rub it all over my face. I mean, that's and Trump probably laughs at those guys secretly. But like Benny Johnson, Jack Posobiec, these guys that just decided they were gonna completely ignore Ron DeSantis and talk about, did they get any of this money? Did any of this money make it into their pockets? That Stop the Steal money went somewhere. I mean, Melania's hairstylist got some of it. So I'd like to get some answers on that. Trump's scared to death, man. He is scared about what the Supreme Court's going to do. I don't know what they're going to do. I think it's going to be a split decision. I think they're going to do some kind of way to make it that, this ad from DeSantis is awesome. It's triggering the Trump people everywhere. Oh, yeah, Alex Bruzewitz, who called for the death penalty for the J6ers and called them animals. There it is. That tweet's real. Death penalty for cop killers, animals. Alex Bruzewitz, Trump shill, Trump's paid spokesman. So, and then they run around crying that, DeSantis didn't do anything to help the January 6ers, guys. And then they actually act like he facilitated their getting tossed in jail. And
Any of our help, we're going to try and give them the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take back our country. So let's walk down Pennsylvania Avenue.
A few moments
he
later.
told them to go to the
Begin by
Capitol.
addressing the heinous attack on the United States Capitol. Like all Americans, I'm outraged by the violence, lawlessness, and many of our.
He told them to go to the Capitol. Look, he said they get on Ray Epps, okay? They get on Ray Epps, okay? I get that the Ray Epps thing is weird. He's like, the Capitol's that way. We need to go into the Capitol, guys. I mean, he kind of was just repeating what Trump said. I don't think Trump said go into the Capitol, but he said march to the Capitol. And then they're going through this day reading his tweets. Oh, he's saying that Mike Pence has let us down and betrayed us, and they go. They're reading his tweets as they're storming in and breaking windows and stuff. Now, I'll tell you this about January 6th, all right? All you had, and let me just tell you, I'm glad I wasn't there that day, okay? I'm so glad I wasn't. I could have been. It would have been horrible. But my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time. She had a dream that something really bad was going to happen. I told this to Enrique Tarrio on his podcast in 2021. There you go. But yeah, that intro is
apparently they have the wrong guy.
They do, and it's funny though because I did not go up to DC on January 6th. I wanted to.
Well, thankfully you didn't.
My girlfriend had a dream the day before that something bad was going to happen and begged me not to go. And that's why I wasn't there.
Well, thankfully you heard her, you heard her advice on not to go because it was probably the smartest thing you ever did.
There you go. But yeah, so yeah, I think Enrique, the Proud Boys, all these guys, they deserve a fair shake. And Ron DeSantis is the one that's going to give them that. Okay. He's not calling them political prisoners and promising pardons for everybody and apologies and stuff like that. He's saying he's going to give them a fair shake and start pardons and commutations on day one. Okay. Some people disagree with me on this, but look, people got wrapped up in Trump mania, especially the Proud Boys. Okay. I got my chest hair sticking out. I look like I'm like 1970s villain on Columbo. I think these guys don't deserve a fair shake. All right. because if you're outside looking in, you see riot, you see insurrection. You weren't there watching what led up to this and Trump's famous "stand back and stand by." I'm loving I'll bring the 70s back. I love the 70s. And how the Proud Boys got so wound up. Where Trump's defenders were, and they were getting wound up by Roger Stone. They were getting wound up by all these guys too. Roger Stone, who they would do everything for, but he wouldn't lift a finger for them. Watch out for guys like that, by the way. Don't let these old political fossils. This is what I've noticed. These old political fossils, all right, like Donald Trump and Roger Stone, they like to get young people riled up, young men especially, okay? And then, but these guys wouldn't do anything for you, all right? They wouldn't lift a finger for you. Roger, Trump, they haven't lifted a finger for Enrique or any of these guys. They haven't, but they so just watch out. Don't get caught up in some old political fossils crusade, and don't get used. Okay, these guys will use you. You got to look out for yourself in these things. And there was a Proud Boy who got a deal, and this is what's his name? Donahoe. Charles Donahoe got sentenced to 40 months. Okay. He cooperated, was sentenced to 40 months, and has been sitting in prison since January 6th, or since he was apprehended and time served. I'm sure that you're not going to see Julie Kelly or Alex Jones or any of these people talk to Charles Donahoe, but you know what? Donahoe did what he needed to do, all right? And I don't hold it against him one bit, and that nobody should. I'm sure they call him a rat. I'm sure they call him a fed. I'm sure they blah, 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 blah. But Enrique stood strong. He stood tall and took it on the chin, 33 years. Didn't cooperate whatsoever, but they call him a fed anyway. So it's like, what does it matter? You might as well look out for yourself here. So I want to interview Charles Donahoe when he gets out. I think he did what he needed to do. This guy that Richard Barnett got a long sentence for the guy that sat there in Pelosi's seat. The lectern guy, he's kind of funny. I mean, but he got out. But this guy here, Richard Barnett, I think a lot of these guys are from Florida too. He how much did he get? Over 4 years. Okay. And I think it was a lot of like, did you cooperate? Did you if you want any of these tweets, I have them all shared. They're all on Reopen Chris. The Bruzewitz tweet, all these tweets, all the stuff that I'm sharing right now, I've already shared on my Twitter. Basically, right now, I'm going down my Twitter. So if you want any of this stuff, just go on my Twitter, Reopen Chris, and you can find it. But when it comes to this, I'm more okay. I want to win. I want this country back. I don't care about Trump's ego. I don't care about grifts. I don't care about any of this stuff. I want to win. And this guy right here, Ron DeSantis, knows how to win.
What would you have done differently than Trump that day?
I would have won the election.
Snoop Dogg. What would you have done differently than Trump that day?
I would have won the election.
Snoop Dogg. What would
I want to win. I want to win. Okay, Free and Croaky are having a space. I love listening to Free and Croaky because honestly, like I disagree with them on some things. Like they think that that Byrd was justified in shooting Ashley Babbitt. I don't think he was, but I take another look at it. When you look at January 6th through the lens that you've been given, you're only going to see it that way. And then you got Trump saying, "Oh, it was the FBI, it was the Antifa." No, there might have been FBI informants in there. Of course there are. Look, groups like the Proud Boys, groups like the Oath Keepers, they're going to be crawling with feds, okay? That's just how it works, all right? They're going to have federal informants amongst them because that's what the federal government does. The FBI, they identify extremist groups or groups that they deem extremist, and they infiltrate them, okay? They've been doing that forever. So there are feds at the Capitol, of course there are. It doesn't mean they hatched the plot. But I will tell you, when it comes to this, all right, let me show you what Biden is putting out there. And people go, "Oh, you're sharing what Biden is saying." Well, yeah, because this is important because these are the kind of this is what we're going to have to deal with if we nominate Trump to be the Republican nominee. It's all we're going to have is this, okay? This is all that's going to be played. Do you notice Biden? This is all he's been talking about. All he's talking about. He put this out today. This is what Biden put out.
January 6th was a very interesting day because they don't report it properly. People in that crowd said it was the most beautiful day they've ever experienced. There was love in that crowd. There was love and unity.
My kids didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts.
I call them the J6 hostages, not prisoners. I call them the hostages.
There'll be a lot of pardons and commutations of J6 defendants, January 6 defendants under your administration?
Yes, absolutely.
They were there with love in their heart. That was an unbelievable, and it was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful day.
So this is, and he's put out multiple things like this. Biden's entire speech yesterday was all about January 6th. You can tell where they're going with this. The media will make Biden into this hero, into a guy the economy hasn't been bad under him. It was worse under Trump because pretty much Trump spent just as much, if not more, than Biden. I mean, it's not going to be some kind of blowout. I mean, it's going to be very difficult going. And then Trump could get kicked off the ballot and become a convicted felon. It will be a disaster if Trump's the nominee. Okay. Now, when it comes to treating the January 6ers fairly, and because they all stood before DC juries and were absolutely they were railroaded, okay? Whether you think they were guilty or not or whatever, they were railroaded, all right, in front of juries that and judges that they never stood a chance in front of. And people go, "Oh, well, that's a Trump judge." I'm like, yeah, he pointed some doozies, didn't he? He appointed Christopher Wray, too. So, but this is what Ron DeSantis has to say about how he will treat the J6ers when he gets into office.
January 6th, some of the people that are going away now, they've 15, 18, and 22 years for Terrio. As a president, would President Ron DeSantis commute or pardon those guys?
We will look at all those cases. I mean, so there's some examples of people that should not have been prosecuted. They just walked into the Capitol. If they were BLM, they would not have been prosecuted. Then there's other examples of people that probably did commit misconduct. They may have been violent, but to say it's an act of terrorism when it was basically a protest that devolved into a riot, to do excessive sentences, you can look at, okay, maybe they were guilty, but 22 years, if other people that did other things got 6 months. So I think we need a single standard of justice. And so we'll use pardons and commutations as appropriate to ensure that everyone's treated equally. And as we know, a lot of people with the BLM riots, they didn't get prosecuted at all.
January 6th, some of the people that are.
And that to me is the perfect way to look at it. Trump is like, yeah, they're hostages. Trump, first of all, he didn't pardon them the first time. So, and he lies all the time. Ron DeSantis does not lie. And by the way, Biden will attack him for this too. Once DeSantis is the nominee, this will get played by Biden. Biden will say, well, how could you say you would pardon? Biden will go after him because DeSantis has said he'll pardon Trump. So it's like, how could you go do that? And it's not like DeSantis this will people will go after him from the left on this. But how can you argue though with equal justice? It's very difficult because DeSantis, what he's promising here is equal justice to set up a way that I'll play all the time. DeSantis has talked about January 6th multiple times and been asked about this. Here's another time.
I wonder what you feel in particular about the protests around January the 6th. Do you think that they were insurrectionists as described? Do you consider them to be protesters? What do you think about the subsequent funding that the Capitol Police received and how the Democrat Party in particular has used these events to enact more power and to control media spaces?
Well, I think it's ridiculous how much money that they pumped in for the Capitol Police. It was not an insurrection. These are people that were there to attend a rally, and then they were there to protest. Now, it devolved and it devolved into a riot. But the idea that this was a plan to somehow overthrow the government of the United States is not true. And it's something that the media had spun up. Just to try to basically, get as much mileage out of it and use it for partisan and for political aims. And so I know there were a lot of people that were there who were just there, and they didn't have any designs on doing anything. And so we just have to be honest about it. If somebody is honestly doing an insurrection against the U.S. government, then prove that that's the case, and I'll be happy to accept it. But all you're showing me is that there were a lot of protesters there, and it ended up devolving, in ways that was unfortunate, of course. But to say that they were seditionists is just wrong.
There's actually a difference between insurrectionist and seditionist, okay? He says it's not an insurrection. There's an argument that it could be. There's a couple definitions of insurrection. But what he's saying is this was a riot, okay? The media's blown it completely out of proportion. And here's another time he talked about the January 6ers. I'll show you all the clips, and these are all available on my Twitter to post underneath Julie Kelly's silly posts or anybody else's posts that try to say that DeSantis wants the J6ers to rot in jail. He's their best shot. He's their best shot at equal justice, because some of the things they did, they need to be held accountable for. I mean, you can't just, gee whiz, there's people that smash glass. There's people that did these kind of things. And he's promising equal justice, but pardons and commutations starting on the front end of his administration. Trump didn't do this the first time, and he doesn't really present a plan. Trump sounds like a guy, just like Vivek. He's just telling the audience what they want to hear. Okay? Trump goes by polls. All right? And here's Baked Alaska, who spent some time in jail for J6, telling me Trump hasn't done anything for these guys.
Nice to finally meet you.
I remember, but it's okay, though.
Yeah, definitely. So what do you think about what's
going
on
anything
here
for us,
today?
but we still love it.
Yeah, I don't know. Trump's getting arrested for the second time in a couple weeks, so I guess we just got to see what happens.
You don't think that any kind of January 6th crap is going to go on today, do you?
I don't think so. A lot of people are out here. I know Dustin and Jennifer Lawrence. There's a bunch of people out here making sure that there's no shenanigans going on. So
good. We all hope so.
Hopefully we don't see another Ray Epps situation.
I know, man. Well, they hate me because I come down on the DeSantis side because DeSantis has said he's going to pardon J6ers. I think he's their best shot. Yeah. What do you think about all this Trump versus DeSantis stuff?
Yeah, personally, I'm Trump, but I think we should just choose the best person for the office. I'm not afraid of debate. I think we should have a debate. And I'll say this, DeSantis is a great governor of Florida. I live in West Palm Beach. He's done a great job here. Personally, I prefer Trump over DeSantis, but I also I think there needs to be a debate because I do think Trump let some of the J6ers down a little bit because a lot of us have legal fees. A lot of us have gone through hell for the last few years, and we haven't got a single dollar from him. And he's a billionaire. And
Not
we went there for him.
$1
gone through hell.
We haven't gotten a single dollar from him, but we still love him. Oh, we still love him so much. He's the look. There's some kind of group think, or if I admit that he was a fraud, that Trump's a fraud, and he let us down. That I think there's people that they're. You hear it in his voice. This is Baked Alaska. Okay, you hear it in his voice that and this is over the summer. This is when Trump was getting indicted in Miami. I went down there and interviewed people, and there was a little bit of a scene. But you can hear it in his voice that he likes DeSantis and all. But I think that there is pressure from the grifters, from the Alex Joneses, from the Julie Kellys. There's the Cara Casanovas and these people that have gone from being food critics to making huge names for themselves by peddling January 6th stuff, that they will be shunned. And Baked Alaska has a live stream. He's a public figure. And I think there's a fear that if these guys, if they go the whole way and say, yeah, I'm done with Trump, he screwed us over and all that they may be shunned, which they probably would be. That's a theory. I don't know. I don't tend to, I don't like to try to say what somebody else's motives are. I don't know what Baked Alaska's motives are. I don't. It's just a theory that, because I know that if they did start singing DeSantis's praises too much, and if they did start ragging on Trump so much and disavowed him and stuff, that they would get the cold shoulder. Suddenly they would not be going on shows or talked to, and suddenly people have already pointed their finger at him and going, oh, you're a Fed, you're a Fed. If they started talking bad against Trump, they might even get the rage of Trump, the wrath of Trump rain down on him. He might rip on him on his True Social. But Trump, listen to this.
It's down a little bit because a lot of us have legal fees. A lot of us have gone through hell for the last few years, and we haven't got a single dollar from him. And he's a billionaire, and we went there for him. I still love Trump, but, I think there are things we can definitely talk about. And we haven't got a single dollar from him, and he's a billionaire, and we went there for him. I still love Trump, but
I don't. I would be so pissed if I went to jail for that guy. And I was close to catching a bus up to J6. I just thought there was a bunch of rallies leading up to January 6th, okay? There's a bunch of rallies. And those rallies were good. And when Trump talks about, oh, the love and this and that, well, actually, those rallies had a lot of clashes between Antifa and the Proud Boys. They would go, because Trump, under his presidency in DC, BLM Plaza got set up, and it was almost like a no-go zone for MAGA people. Like, they took over an area in DC. And that was when I don't think it was Enrique that burned the flag. I think he was there. I think somebody else did it. He took the fall for it. That's what he went to jail for the first time. But the BLM flag that got burned. But there was those rallies. I think they were good, but you saw an element there, and you saw. So I think that's where somebody tried to stab Enrique Tarrio at one of those things. There was a progression leading up to January 6th. There were, I think they called them the Save America rallies, but there were lots of people that came from all over the country marching on the Capitol. And, Gavin McInnes, the guy that founded the Proud Boys, even, I'm telling you, there's a video of him warning them, don't go. They want to kill you. They want to kill you. There was so much tension and so much emotion building up to January 6th. Now, here is a question I have for the Capitol Police. All right? Because let's go to another. Biden is just talking about this all day long. Biden has his War Room account, this Biden Harris headquarters account, and there's Pam on CNN got shared by Pam, and I think she's in Croaky's space now. Appearance shared by Biden War Room account. Let's see what this is. Pam Hemphill, okay, and she's been in our spaces, our Croaky and Tim spaces lately, And this mob follows her in every space, this angry mob that it seems a little odd, but it's a group of people that follow her in every space and accuse her of all sorts of things and all. But she was saying yesterday, I was in a space with her yesterday. She was talking about going on CNN, and here she is. She just got shared by Biden-Harris headquarters. Let's see what Pam said.
Her life now is dramatically different than it was 3 years ago. So what's going through your mind ahead of this 3-year anniversary of the Capitol attack?
You know, right now, under the administration of Biden, it's getting better. However, the narrative with the J6 is getting worse. And what's happening with Trump's rhetoric out there, the lone wolves is what I'm worried about, that are going out there and they're becoming dangerous. When you threaten a judge or the Secretary of State and want to do a SWAT on somebody, it's really scary, because the narrative is getting worse and worse, that the election was not stolen. They will not let go of that one. And we know that's a lie. And Trump knew the election had been stolen, and he had us come there anyway. I mean, I'm so tired of the narrative that they're putting out there. And that's why I speak out, because I have all the receipts. I was there. I know what happened that day. And I hold Trump totally responsible.
Okay, they will rip her. The MAGA people will rip her, and unfortunately, people on the left will rip Pam because the Trump people will say that, oh, look, she's just nothing she said there is not true. Trump knew that the election was not stolen. His own guy that he paid, Kenneth Block, came back to him and said, I have nothing that will stand up in court. We all saw Rudy Giuliani's clown show. Mark Meadows told him it wasn't stolen. Steve Bannon is there going, Trump's going to say he lost anyway. Watch A Storm Foretold, the Roger Stone documentary. I mean, that should be everywhere, where he's saying, yeah, he lost. He said it like 3 times, and then he was having a meltdown, and rightfully so, mad that he left without pardoning a single damn one of them. All right. But nothing Pam is saying. I get it. This is ear candy to CNN. This is they have their own agenda. But nothing Pam said there is not the truth. Fox News should have the balls to have Pam on. Okay. He should have Pam on. People would be furious. They should know that Trump knew the election wasn't stolen, but he lied. He had no evidence, or at least he might have thought that it was stolen. Maybe he made himself believe that, but he should have admitted to everybody, I don't have the goods for this. Okay. I think I have a feeling it was stolen. By the way, it was the CARES Act that allowed all these mail-in ballot schemes to happen. He signed this into law himself. He signed that's what Thomas Massie says. He signed his own death warrant politically when he signed that CARES Act. Okay. And Pam will get discredited because she's on CNN. All right. But nothing she's saying there is not true. And yeah, you saw there was somebody with a gun in the Colorado Supreme Court. I think she's right about the lone wolf thing. And then you see Trump crying to his audience with his face melting, he's like, oh, if it was the left, guys, they would be rioting, and they would go to the Supreme Court's homes. And and yeah, we did see that with the abortion stuff. They did go to the Supreme Court members' homes. That's probably what he was referring to. But dude, don't do it. I get it. The left gets treated different than the right. Okay. But that's just the reality we live in right now. All right. Ron DeSantis is the best bet we have to change that. All right. But as of right now, the left does get preferential treatment. So if you're just going to go and try using that in court, that just doesn't work. Okay. So many people are trying to use that going, well, the left does it and they get away with it. Well, that might be true, but that's not going to hold up in court. All right. So don't get involved in any of Trump's drama. All right. If the Supreme Court doesn't rule the way he wants, don't get involved with it. Okay. So this Biden whoever's running this Biden Harris headquarters account is not doing a bad job. Clearly, it's not Biden doing it, but this is what we're going to see every day if Trump is the nominee. We're going to see this every single day. I almost think somebody put that noose there as it almost was like set up for the pictures and to like this. There was some things that seemed really choreographed about this, but who knows? Who knows who put that thing up? But there you go. I mean, all you see on Biden-Harris headquarters is Trump's tweets. Mike Pence to send them back to the States. We will win. Do this, Mike, and putting this all on Mike. Oh, we got to get Mike. And then Mike Pence gets smeared by him. Absolutely smeared. Why would anybody want to be this guy's VP? He told them to go to the Capitol.
These people are not going to take it any longer. They're not going to take it any longer. We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved. Our country has had enough. We will not take it anymore. And that's what this is all about. And to use a favorite term that all of you people really came up with, we will stop the steal.
Well, Roger Stone came up with that term, but
so we're going to.
And Roger loved it. Roger loved it when he used that term because Roger came up with "stop the steal." He actually came up with it back in 2015, 2016, because if Trump had lost to Hillary, he was going to claim that the election was stolen. All right. So they came up with "Stop the Steal." They set up a website. He was already setting the stage for it, accusing her of cheating, accusing her, but then he ended up winning. So then "Stop the Steal" got put on the shelf. And then it got brought back up in 2020. Brother, be careful of believing what you want to hear. I think there's something up with this woman with Pam. I hear this from so many people. There's this whole like something's up with Pam. Look, it's not my job to find out what a woman's every single belief is and her mental state or anything like that. I'm just telling you that what she said in that CNN interview is 100% true. Trump knew he lost, or he knew at least he had no evidence to prove that he won, but he allowed this to go on. All right. There's no arguing with that. Now the Trump supporters will never believe any of it because they're just in their own little world. But that's what makes me the most mad. Nothing Pam said there. I don't know everything about Pam's background. This woman gets so much. People are just like, oh my goodness, Pam. She gets this mob that followers are around in Twitter Spaces and but what she's saying is not wrong. Clearly, she's impressionable because she got duped by Trump. But nothing she said in that interview was not true.
We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania Avenue. And we're going to the Capitol because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength and you have to be strong.
I see this as inciting a riot. Okay. I call it insurrection if you want, call it not. I don't tell me he didn't know that there was some chance that this could go wrong, that this could go off the rails. I hold him responsible. Some people might not want to hear that, but I hold him responsible. But this is the point is this is the stuff we're going to have to be listening to. This is the way. This is what we're going to have to be listening to the whole entire time. I mean, Pam's being used by Biden and Harris headquarters. You know, they're clipping this. They are using her. I get it that they're using Pam. I get it. But she it's not that she's lying.
It's your reaction to what you just heard there from President Trump. Is Biden fear-mongering about the fate of democracy here?
Absolutely not. You know, that's the mega, I don't know how to explain it, but they have this way of demeaning you and putting you down. And that's what they've got going right now is this huge gaslighting smear campaign going on, telling me that it was a peaceful protest. I was there. I was there when they pushed those gates and those officers. And when they stepped on my head.
So look, I get it that she's being used here for a political reason, but she's not lying. I mean, she's not. You know who this stuff won't be used against is Ron DeSantis. You know, they're showing exactly what their campaign is going to be. Okay.
January 6th was a very interesting day because they don't report it properly. I believe it was the largest crowd I've ever spoken before. People in that crowd said it was the most beautiful day they've ever experienced. There was love in that. There was love and unity. I have never seen such spirit and such passion and such love. January 6th was a very interesting.
This is the campaign playbook here. This is what they're going to be using. And you know what? You might, in your MAGA world, you might think that this is all nonsense and stuff, but most of middle America, their views of January 6th they're going to be shaped by this stuff. I mean, this is now a question. Hold on a second. Now, a question that I have with this, okay?
Didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts, not the fraudulent or inaccurate ones which they were asked to previously certify. U.S. demands the truth.
All right. Now, here's a question I have. You do have police there in riot gear, but my question is with the Capitol Police and all, why wasn't there more preparation for this? Like, on the one hand, the protesters and the riots got out of control, but on the other hand, you have the Capitol Police and they're running around in these silly surgical masks because they were observing Fauciism at the time, and they looked so in over their heads. I mean, where was the National Guard? I mean, why wasn't this is our Capitol building. I mean, to think that it's that easy to storm in and do all these things. This is the Capitol. You would think that there would be like primo riot control, like knowing that this was coming, and to have like your top riot control National Guard. I think Pelosi's in charge of the Capitol, and Trump was always going after her for not being prepared. Whoever was in charge of the Capitol should have been more prepared for this, because it seemed like an absolute shit show. And I know they were I've seen, believe me, I've watched pretty much most of what I watched from January 6th is stuff from Rumble, stuff that was put out by Alex Jones or people on the right. So I've seen really much people stay in their bubbles with this stuff. I've seen pretty much what the people that say it was not an insurrection and because that's what I wanted to believe for a long, So I know what they've said. All right. I've seen the videos. I've seen the accusations of feds in the audience. I've seen the Ray Epps stuff. I've seen the people that were hit with those projectiles fired by the Capitol Police. They started firing into the crowd. Okay. It put a hole in somebody's cheek. I know the Ashley Babbitt video. But there wasn't enough preparation here. Clearly, they were not ready for what was coming. And it's just hard to believe that at our Capitol that there wasn't better riot control, like a way to, spray the crowd and to whatever they do. There's ways to humanely disperse a riot. And that the Capitol Police, they're just running around. They're running around in these masks, and they just seemed like they were way in over their head, and they didn't see it coming. They seemed unprepared. I'll just tell you, they seemed unprepared for this, and that's sad because some Capitol Police ended up dying. I think it was like days later or something. I don't know if they died there, but the Capitol Police who died. Oh no, I'll come help. All right, so Brian Sticknick died on January 7th. Jeffrey Smith killed himself after the attack. Howard Liebengood of the Capitol Police died by suicide 4 days afterwards. Capitol Police had previously said Officer Sicknick died from injuries sustained while physically engaging with the protesters, but the Washington Medical Examiner later ruled he died of natural causes, multiple strokes. Okay, so the idea that Capitol Police were killed in the attack is not true. Okay, there were 2 suicides, and Officer Sicknick they found died from strokes after the fact. Okay, but the suicides, it's like, why would they kill themselves? It's very, it's sad. But Ashley Babbitt was tragically killed, and there were other ones that were killed. People who died, and there were also a lot that were injured. I just want to look at this as objectively as I can. Kevin Greason died of a heart attack collapsing on the sidewalk west of the Capitol January 6th. Roseanne Boyland, and I saw Roseanne Boyland's whole story. Okay, so people that are like, "Oh, Chris, you need to watch this video," and I've watched them all. What I really didn't watch was the mainstream sources. I mainly just watched the videos from like the Cara Casanovas and stuff like that. So, all right. So there was, all right, here, that's what I want to hear. Roseanne Boyland appears to have been crushed in a stampede of fellow rioters as they surged against the police. Benjamin Phillips, the founder of a pro-Trump website called Trumparoo, died of a stroke. Mr. Greason and Phillips died of natural causes. Miss Boyland's death was caused by an accidental overdose. Oh, wow, like George Floyd, right? I mean, no, that's sad. Boyland, they're saying she died of an overdose. I know that's disputed. I know pretty much everything with this is disputed, but guys, it just doesn't have to be this way, okay? And what we need to have is a return to sanity in our country, okay? We don't want more riots, and all of these riots, there's one thing in common with the BLM and Antifa riots of 2020, the Capitol riot, all these things, they all happened under Trump's watch, okay? Trump didn't do anything but tweet law and order in all caps during the BLM riots, okay? Our country deserves better, and I'm telling you, the entire election will be about January 6th and Trump's legal issues and all this stuff. They're already showing it. Look at Biden-Harris headquarters. Look at Biden, what he's, they're all showing it. That's what the election is going to be about if Donald Trump's the nominee. All right? We can do better. If Ron DeSantis is the nominee, that guts that whole argument, okay? And Ron DeSantis will win, all right? And that will restore a level of sanity to our country. Guys, that's what we need. Please consider it, take advice, and speak your mind, and look at this stuff with an open mind. I encourage everybody to look at mainstream sources and listen to what the people that were pro-January 6th said. Listen to all of them. Don't just stay in your little tunnel and then come to your own conclusions. This is Chris Nelson. Please like and share this video and subscribe, and thanks for watching.